Welcome to the second part of the layouts at the Falkirk Model Railway Exhibition, which took place in November 2019. If you're interested in model railway exhibition layouts, their description, construction and operation, and this is your first time to this channel, start now and become a subscriber. Hit the bell icon to get notifications. This double O gauge layout is Poulton-Le-Fylde, exhibited by Greg Mackenzie. Situated on the busy Blackpool North to Preston line, the station, managed by Northern Rail, sees regular services from Manchester Piccadilly, York and Liverpool Lime Street. Until 1970, the junction at Poulton-Le-Fylde also provided passenger services to Fleetwood, and until 1999, freight services to the ICI plant at Burn Halt. The layout measures 20 feet by 5 feet, with the scenic section 20 inches wide. There are two fiddle yards at the ends of the layout. One extends to the rear. Sector plates are at one end, with a turntable at the other. Buildings are scratch built, track and points are Pico Code 75. Control is DCC using NCE power cab. There is also a PC which is used to control the points. Stock is Bachmann ready to run, with some locos chipped for sound. My thanks to Greg for the information. Here you can view the T-gauge layout Pass of Killiecrankie, exhibited by Campbell Russell. For those of you unfamiliar with T-gauge, here is a brief description. Developed by KK Aishindo of Japan and unveiled at the Tokyo Toy Fair in 2006, T-gauge is officially recognised by the Guinness Book of Records as being the smallest model railway system in the world at a scale of 1 to 450. The units are powered by 4.5 volt motors and have magnetic wheels to improve adhesion. There is a growing selection of UK and American outline rolling stock in addition to the Japanese ones. This continuous loop layout, measuring 6'6" by 13 inches, is a nearly to scale model of the Pass, showing the River Garry 6 years ago. Buildings are all scratch built. Track and stock are all sourced in Japan. There is an HST with working lights and a 4-car diesel, which came as a blank body to which the liveries were added. Control is analog DC. Road vehicles were assembled from kits. My thanks to Campbell for the information. This double O gauge layout is Loch Burn, exhibited by Keith Taylor. Loch Burn is a small fictional diesel maintenance depot in the north of Glasgow. The period is either 1960 with green diesels or 1980 with blue diesels. The layout was inspired by Ian Footers. Built to be car transportable, the layout measures 7 feet by 18 inches across 2 boards. Buildings are kit built from Trackman and Inglenook. Track and points are Pico Code 75. Control is DC for 1960 green diesels or DCC for 1980s blue diesels. The layout is run with 2 operators, one controlling the lower level and the other controlling the upper level. Stock is a mixture of Bachmann, Hornby and Heljan. My thanks to Keith for the information. Here you can view the double O gauge layout St Cuthberts, exhibited by Steve Benjamin of the Thistle Model Maker Society. Set somewhere in the Scottish borders is the town of St Cuthberts. It is the late 1950s. The town is served by a small station with a regular passenger service, and local goods for shops and farms arrive and depart by rail. The layout operates with a mixture of LMS steam and diesel motive power. The layout started out as an educational project for club members, measuring 10 feet by 4 feet across 3 boards with a 6-foot scenic and a 4-foot fiddle yard. Buildings are all kit built with Pico track and points. Control is DCC with lens for the locomotives. and an old Rocco controller for the points, which are servo driven. My thanks to Steve for the information. This HO gauge layout is Humber Yard, exhibited by Ian Rankin and Keith Fox. Humber Yard is a fictitious layout set in southern Ontario, Canada for the left-hand board and northern New York State, USA for the right-hand board. The layout is actually made up of two members' home layouts with a fiddle yard in the middle and an imaginary US-Canada border running through the middle of the fiddle yard. The time period is the late 1950s through to the 1960s and includes typical rolling stock, road vehicles and buildings for the time, as seen in these areas. The layout measures 13 foot 6 by 18 inches across 4 boards. The layout is to HO gauge 187 scale and uses Pico Code 75 with Electrofrog turnouts. The layout usually runs on normal analog 12 volt DC controllers, but with no modification to the control system can be run on digital DCC. The buildings are mainly kits, some heavily modified from the Walters Cornerstone series. Stock is mainly Bachmann. My thanks to Ian for the information. This 00 gauge layout is Dalby Lane, exhibited by Ian Brown of the Bonnybridge Model Railway Club. Dalby Lane is a fictional small serving depot near the Midlands Main Line, operated by Colas Rail, but provides basic servicing, fuel and minor repairs for other operators. With 2 boards measuring 4 feet by 18 inches, this fictional end-to-end layout is only its second public outing. All buildings are scratch built with track and points by Pico. Control is DCC by Gagemaster Prodigy Advanced with all locos sound fitted. Stock is a mixture of Hornby and Bachmann. My thanks to Ian for the information. This EM gauge 4mm scale layout is Wainthrop Bridge, exhibited by Simon Howard. The layout depicted here is an imaginary single track branch line of the LYR based around the late 1920s. The buildings on the layout are based on actual prototypes. The station building is based on Cleckheaton, signal box is based on Entwistle, and a goods shed a stone version of Liversedge. All buildings are built from scratch with card and plasticard. Measuring 12 feet by 18 inches, there are 2 scenic boards and 1 fiddle yard board. The track work on the layout is hand-built to EM gauge standards, making use of parts from the C&L fine scale range using separate sleepers and chairs. Point work is made operational by means of wire and tube and rotating levers and utilises microswitches for changing the polarity on the points. The stock used on the layout is a mixture of kit and scratch-built items. Most of the rolling stock and the locos are compensated to aid reliable running. Automatic uncoupling is utilised by means of the Spratt and Winkle hook and bar method, with permanent magnets strategically placed around the layout. The scenery is built using styrene, card and paper, to name a few. Woodland Scenics and Green Scene Scenic Flock was used to create foliage, and car insulation fibre used for grassy areas. My thanks to Simon for providing the information. This 00 gauge layout is Micro Cement, exhibited by Andy Strathy of the Greenock Model Railway Club. The Cement Works theme is inspired by the Hope Valley Cement Works in the Peak District. The track plan was taken from an original plan built as a narrow gauge 009 mineral railway. At 1 metre in length, Micro Cement is an exercise in minimal space industrial railway modelling. All structures are scratch built from plasticard, apart from the loading hopper, which is Hornby. Merg kits are used throughout to light the building. Control is DC via a Merg kit, but can also be run on DCC using Bachmann Dynamis or Lens Set 100. Stock is ready to run, but weathered. Hornby Sentinel locomotives appear extensively on the layout. My thanks to Andy for the information. Here you can view the N-gauge layout Billingham, exhibited by John Parvin. Billingham is a town located in the northeast of England. Constructed to British N-gauge standards, the scenic area measures 6 feet in length by 22 inches in depth. Set in the years 1965 to 1966, general goods traffic to the yard was in decline. The era being represented allows the running of both steam and diesel locomotives. Passengers, meanwhile, are provided with the then modern first generation diesel multiple units. The layout is conventionally wide for DC running, the trackwork comprising the extensive use of Pico Code 80, with the exception of a Shinohara 3-way turnout incorporated into the goods yard. Points are operated by electric motors, and a system of permanent magnets is used for remote uncoupling of various wagons within the goods yard. Stock is Graham Farish, with the crane supplied by Osborne Cranes. My thanks to John for the information. This N-gauge layout is Dragonby, exhibited by Jeff Butler. Dragonby is a continuous loop set in the East Midlands northeast area. At 16 feet by 4 feet across 4 boards, the layout is a perfect showcase for scale-length modern trains in N-gauge and liveries that would be seen in the area. It has a 4-track main line and is operated by 4 operators in the contemporary privatisation era, featuring a constant procession of modern passenger and freight trains. These are represented by Class 60s, 67s, 70s and a multitude of HSTs and Voyagers. Buildings are all scratch built. Track and points are Pico Code 80. Stock is a mixture of Graham Farish and Dapol, although there are a couple of 3D printed wagons. All stock is weathered. My thanks to Jeff for the information. To view more exhibition layouts, click on the playlist. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you soon.